If you want to get up to the top, you have to step on other people. And so that energy permeates and it gets messy to step on other people. Well, you did this and I did that, and that makes me above you. And it's like, there is no above, there is no dimension, actually. And like, we can't even think about what it would look like to live in a fifth dimension consciousness because we're still really in boxes.
So grateful you're here. Let's get started. Today we have with us Jana Stern, and she's going to go ahead and tell us a little bit about herself and what she does and why she does it.
Thank you so much, Rania, for having me on the show. And my name is Jana. I am a psychic and an astrologer, and I often call myself a call-out queen and a shit talker because I am a lot of the woo things, but a lot of what I do is show people the things that are sort of hidden in reality. And because I don't present as one of those crystal ball ladies with the fringes, although sometimes I wear that, persona. I really am just a regular person who's actually lived a lot in proximity to and in relationship with mental health. And so my understanding of reality and how reality has shaped me and also how we shape reality is sort of a fiction that I think everybody has kind of collectively bought into, but it's all diluting and the veils are thinning and we're like, hold on, wait a minute, that doesn't seem real anymore. And so there's this like uptick in two things. One, the conversation around mental health and wellness and, things like ADHD and, autism and things like that. And then there's also on the other side, this, uptick in crystals and astrology and all of those kinds of things. And it's my belief that those things go together. And as we kind of see the world evolving into this, like we were just sort of starting to talk about it before we hit record, this world of tech and AI and this transhuman agenda that very much goes with Pluto and Aquarius, which is a transit that we're moving through for about 20 years that we're sort of at the beginnings of now and starting to feel like, okay, well, what does it mean to be a human and how does it show up and how does it feel? And to me, as somebody who has been in the world of psychic healing and energy healing for over 15 years, human equals seeing the spirit of one another and then relating to that in a way that is meaningful, relating to the suffering that we experience as humans, as individuals, and also as a collective, and then kind of pulling away all of the stories that we tell ourselves individually and collectively that are based on a false narrative that hold the old system up. And we're watching that system crumble. And so I'm sort of an agent of change and a disruptor and a shit talker, a call out queen in the process. So that's what I do.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that. It really is like with everything that's happening in the world right now, we need connections like this to feel human, to feel seen, to feel heard. And at the end of the day, the collective just wants peace. The collective just wants to coexist and have their beliefs and to be able to still have their beliefs without having moments of doubt about who they are and what they believe in just because, the specific people, leave it at that, are telling them what they should believe and how they should be living their lives and trying to keep them in this bubble and in this box of like you said, like the old construct, the old foundation that's no longer serving the collective. And it's that trying to like shove it and like keep it, the way it is.
It's interesting that you use the word box because the way that I talk about it from a more esoteric place is we have been very three-dimensional in our consciousness. We've been literally boxed in to what this dimension has been. And what we're actually experiencing is a war on consciousness that's happening in a fourth dimension that we can't really understand. And I believe that we rise up to 5, 10, 11, 12, like all the way. I think we go all the way eventually. Like I say it all the time, I think we get to the good part. We're just not there right now. But what's happening both like in physical and also in energetic is the systems that have said you're not good enough, the way you do life, the way you have experienced this and that, the ways that you respond and react to things, the experience, whatever it might be, we have lived in such a dense reality of not enoughness. Mm-hmm. And then there is this very much, in the 3-dimension. I mean, the first thing that we learn, right? We learn letters, which are how we create our reality through words. We learn numbers, which are the shape of our frequencies that we're trapped in here. And we learn shapes, right? And so the shapes are circle, triangle, and square. And in a triangular corporate reality that is very capitalistic, at the top are those who are that 1%, and at the bottom are the people who are struggling. And so if you want to get up to the top, you have to step on other people. And so that energy permeates, and it gets messy to step on other people. Well, you did this and I did that, and that makes me above you. And it's like, there is no above, there is no dimension, actually. And like, we can't even think about what it would look like to live in a 5th dimension consciousness because we're still really in boxes.
Yeah. And it's that struggle of like, in good conscience that you don't need to step over someone or to tear somebody down to get to where you want to be. But because we've been so conditioned to believe that for so long, whether it's power, whether it's financially, whether it's title, whatever it is, we've been conditioned like the only way to get ahead is to leave others behind.
Even family systems, right?
Yeah. And it's like that conditioning, I feel, is like what's causing a lot of what's going on in the world right now.
Yes.
It's thinking that in order to feel safe or feel worthy, I have to annihilate everybody else, or I have to be above everybody else. I have to be in control of everybody else. I have to have power over everybody else. But that's not the case, because we can all coexist with peace, with love, with helping each other, with respecting each other's beliefs. We don't have to believe other people's beliefs, but we could respect it. Like, that's your belief. I respect that. I have my beliefs. You have yours. Doesn't mean you can't coexist, know?
Right. And allowing those things to all live simultaneously. Like I hear people say a lot, 2 things can be true at once. And I actually had a whole series on 2 things can be true on Instagram for a little while that I did. But multiple things are true. I have a Gemini moon, so everything is true at once and nothing is true. And, it's that old meme of like, one person standing on one side and the other, and this guy looks at it and it's a 6, and that guy looks at it and it's a 9. But also, if you're from up top, it's a whole other thing. And if you're running in circles, it's an infinity symbol. And, there's so many different versions of what true is, right? And also, there is no number, and there is no spoon, and there is no reality. Right? So how do we move out of that? The answer to me is through understanding the different things that we actually came here to experience. And I call it cornucopia living, where I believe that we've all come here for a reason, for a why, and we come here with gifts. And if we lived in a reality where we could live out our gift and live in the gift, in the enoughness, everybody at that cornucopia would be fed, and they would be fed in such a way that nobody would be hungry, because there would be no need for greed, because everybody knows I've brought my best dish here. I'm going to make sure that every single person has something good and nourishing from what I bring. And if you know that everybody who comes to the party comes that way, what kind of a world does that look like, right? And so, but we can't live that way if we don't understand what the gift is, if we don't understand what we came here for. There's so many people asking the question, what am I here for? Why am I doing this? Especially now with all the like hardship of the world, and as all the collective trauma, unconscious stuff all comes to the surface, there's tons of things to quote, be afraid of, right? But there is nothing to be afraid of because we're all here whole and complete. We just don't live that way.
Yeah. And it's also like the concept of like when you're told if you stand up or you stand for what you believe in, you know, something bad's gonna happen to you, or you know, like a lot of people
play nice.
Yeah, or like been afraid to speak up or to
Especially
share.
women.
Yes, to share what's going on in the world because they're afraid they're going to lose their job over it. How are they going to feed their family? You know, it's like having that power dangled in front of them of like, oh, well, if you speak your truth or you're seeing things outside the perspective that we want you to believe in, then you're not going to get that biweekly paycheck and you're
Right.
not going to have a job. And how are you going to feed your family? You know, and then it's also talking about like all our taxes, all our finances, like everything that we're doing, that we're working hard for on this hamster wheel is going over to fund things that have nothing to support
Right.
us or
I feel
help
like I
us.
wasn't in the room when those decisions were made. Why? Who elected these people? How did we get here? Why are the corporations doing what they're doing? Why are there poisons in our food? And why are why is anybody at war? And why is anything happening? Right. And yes, exactly. And for me, the thing that I talk about a lot is how money really is energy. And a thing that I do in my business is I do my best to do my best. And so, I remain very human, and sometimes my best looks real messy. I got lots of fire in my chart. So do with that what you will. But mostly I do my best to do my best. And so what that looks like for me is understanding that God is protecting me in ways that I don't understand. And the universe has my back. And that radical acceptance, like it sounds so fluffy when I say it. It sounds like one of those things that, the women with the fringes and those people say, and they do, but it really is true that when you understand that your energetic field is the thing that those corporations are absolutely harvesting. We are being harvested energetically on our phones, in all of the fear that they generate. I mean, there are, I don't want to get conspiratorial and talk about some of the things that, happen with fear. But I could go there and I'm not going to. But, those things are very, very, very real. And so when we have understanding of how powerful our individual spirits are, suddenly you understand that your energy is the currency, and how you start to receive actually shifts when you're like, I do not consent to selling my souls for this paycheck. I do not consent to lying or pretending that this thing. I saw a comedian talking about somebody in the audience who was like, I sell arms I work in the United States Army and I sell arms. And the guy was like, how do you sleep at night? Like, he was like, well, it's a paycheck. And he was like, I feel like there's other ways to make good money. Like there just are, Yeah.
It's tough, especially when you think about like money is a form of energy, and like just think about all of the benefits that could come from it for us. Like you have people who are homeless, people who have PTSD, people who have no like shelter, and it would eradicate all of that.
No clean water. We funnel all the money and we're so backwards. We're just so backwards.
Yeah. And it's really tough, like to be like, oh, well, here you deducted that from my page.
Yeah, exactly.
And I have no say in it,
Exactly. I bought the nice house and I have the great car, so I guess it's okay.
Yeah. But then it's like, how is it serving you? Like, what joy do you get out of it?
Yes.
Is it the same joy as you, donating to help a family in need? Is it the same joy as you like seeing a homeless person on the street and being like, hey, did you have a meal today?
Right.
Can I buy you something?
Right.
And it's so simple, but as a collective, it tends to be like just overthought and overanalyzed, but it's
Hmm.
so simple. It's as simple as just like seeing a person that, is like slumped over because they look sad and just be like, "Hey, are you okay?"
Yeah. Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
"I love your shirt." You don't even have to have
Hmm.
a whole conversation because sometimes people don't want to share what they're going through, but
Right.
it's a simple like smile at them, like, "I love your shirt. You look great today." And that
Yep.
just shifts, especially when it's people having conversations with themselves that are not so nice because
Hmm.
they grew up in an environment where they were told they weren't worthy, they were told they weren't enough, and then conditioning to think that, especially since, like we were talking about earlier, you said like you're at the center, your energy's at the center of everything around you. So when you're having those conversations with yourself, the universe is going to be like, "Oh, let me deliver you some proof." And then
Hmm.
every time you step outside, "Oh, I got splashed." You're walking in the street, it's raining, and then a car splashes you. "Oh, see, I'm not worthy of being seen, that the car didn't even see me and splashed me with water." you
Right.
know or like,
Right.
I lost my wallet, I'm not worthy of having money. It's just like
Hmm.
having that, and you just keep building on that, and you keep telling yourself the same thing over and over again, and then the universe just delivers what you're
Yep.
saying.
Yep. Yep. And reprogramming that is um imperative and very, 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 very possible. It takes a lot
Yes,
of work and
it does.
diligence.
Oh, yes.
But I'm a person who I've lived a lot of life, and I have had many experiences that 20 years ago, you would not think that I would be where I am now. I had a suicide attempt in my 20s where I was dead for 11 minutes. And when I, came out of that process, like the next 5 years of my life were like, how do I stop myself from being so self deprecating? How do I notice the thoughts and allow them, not get angry at them, not judge them, not try to change them, but just
Hmm.
literally be like, huh, again, there it is.
Yeah.
Again, there it is. And then eventually lovingly moving into something else has to be possible here because, and understanding what seed was planted in my very, very young years, consciously or subconsciously, in this lifetime or in past lifetimes, what seed exists that expects me to get, you know, splashed on the street because I'm not good enough. And so those things, first of all, they all live in our charts. They all live in every part of our body. They live in our fascia. They live in the ways that we show up. They live in everything because how you do one thing is how you do everything.
Hmm.
And but it's very, very possible to change those things. And that's a lot of what I do in my work is I teach people how to, like what I say, step into your psychic self. Your psychic self, your higher self, whatever you want to call it, that self doesn't have any of that self-deprecation. I've
Yeah.
never met a single person who doesn't have an inner dialogue that is very unkind and judgmental. And I know that you can shift those narratives with time, love, and like the right guidance and,
Yeah.
the right, boundaries and bumpers to not go into the gutter, so to
Yeah.
speak.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's like similar to like the work that I do. I do it with like um childhood trauma,
Hmm.
generational trauma,
Yep.
and
All
sometimes
that
it's
is
like,
part of it.
yeah, and like you're walking around, you don't know why you feel sad all the time or what's going
Hmm.
on, and it's like, and when I help people like get to the root of it and they're just like, "This
Nothing
is what
better,
started
girl.
it all." Oh, I
Nothing
love
better.
it. Love it.
Yeah.
And it's like as if like that light bulb just went off and you're just like, "You did the work. I was just here to like guide you, but you
Exactly.
did it." And I'm
Yeah.
like, I get so excited, and it like fills me up and it lights me up when
Yeah.
people see that they are worthy, they are enough. And I feel like
Mm.
if that was the case, like if people just saw that and started coming from a place of like self-love, self-acceptance, feeling complete and whole, so many things in the world would change. There would be so much more world peace. There would be so much more
Inner peace.
yes, inner peace,
Well,
just like
inner peace is the way to outer peace, right?
exactly. You got to
Which is
work on
why
the
we all got to
internal.
do the work,
Yes.
know?
Yes. And
Yeah.
listen, I'll tell you, it's not easy for
Nope.
all of you out there. It's not easy, but it takes the same amount effort and energy to stay quote unquote depressed or
Yep.
feeling
Choose your
unworthy.
hard.
Exactly. Exactly. Choose your hard and run with it because
Mm-hmm.
it gets easier, just like it got so easy to be on autopilot and to be, distracted.
Scrolling.
Exactly. Use that same energy towards living a life that you want, not a life that was formed by somebody else for you.
Yeah, I
So,
often say create, don't consume.
oh, I love that. Yeah, that sums it up. Yeah, create, don't consume. I love that.
Should I drop my
And
microphone on the floor?
um, and I want to actually, it's so funny because you and I just like went for it, and I'm loving this conversation so much that I forgot to ask, how did you discover you were psychic?
So I have a schizophrenic father who definitely operates in the 5D a lot. He actually has a very difficult time being in the 3D, and that challenge is something that I've been adjacent to my whole life. And I could hear crystals as a child. A lot of the crystals that you can see behind me are from my grandfather and my great grandfather on his side. So they've been with me my whole life. And my childhood was, listening to them sing songs and tell me stories. And that was always my life. But I really got it very early on that hearing voices was what my father was doing. And he was institutionalized when I was very young. And so, yeah, when I started to get older, I just suppressed it and did what I call the forgetting. And in my forgetting, things got very out of control. I developed an eating disorder to be in control. Like I said, I had a suicide attempt to be like, I can't live like this. And then after my attempt, the gifts that I had were way amplified. And suddenly I was, my gift of mediumship was getting stronger and undeniable. And I would say that spirit would come into me and plug in like I was a switchboard and just start delivering messages. So I had to develop boundaries around that. But and then as I was sort of coming out of this eating disorder attempt, phase of my life, I started getting very serious about my astrology study, which I had been, again, my father's mother rather, is somebody who's always been connected to her chart. She had charts drawn for her and my grandfather when he was very young in the 60s. And then, so I got really deep into that practice of astrology and started working those psychic muscles and studying metaphysics and learning a whole plethora of modalities and getting really deep into the understanding of crystals and hermetics and all the different energetic frequencies. And I studied quantum human design. And I mean, I want to say, like, name a modality, I've been there, I've done it. I have a Gemini moon, like I said. So I love all the different things. I love, my brain wants to learn everything. And so, yeah, it's just been a lifetime. I always say, like, I didn't get into it, it got into me. I have a podcast called the Just Jana Show that in its first iteration was called I'm Really Into That Stuff, because I knew so many people who were really into the weird woo stuff that I'm into. So, I love the question. And that's kind of the short, long answer.
I love that. Yeah, it's and I can relate to that because like growing up, I was always like picking up on other people's energies, or like I could tell when like something bad was going to happen or something good or would come in a dream, and I would suppress it because it was like you didn't want to be the weird one. You didn't want to be
really interesting, and you're right. When we were children, it was not okay. But now, if you look at the indigo babies, if you look at the children who are 12 and under today, ain't one of them that don't have some kind of magical gift. And you're like, please don't lose it. Don't have your parents condition it out of you. Please stay magical, please. Yeah. So you're right.
True. Yeah,
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
it is. It's like you suppress it and then you're just like, you start to think about, oh, you're not seeing what I'm seeing, you're not hearing what I'm hearing. And then it's just like, oh, okay,
Mm,
so I gotta stay quiet so
right.
I don't end up on like medication or, it's suppressing it one way or another. And you grow up in that, and then you stop trusting yourself, you stop trusting your
Correct.
intuition, you're seeking answers from the people around you, you're seeking answers from your external environment,
Yep.
when everything is internally. You have all the answers internally just by being yourself.
That's right. And I have a whole 21-day course that literally rewires your brain to trust that self, because it's, the way that you're describing it, you're correct. We come in here and yes, people might not hear what I hear. I have clairaudience, but they might smell it. They might taste it in the air. It might come through in a different channel, in a different way. And because we've not been allowing those gifts to be present, because we're not yet at the cornucopia, so to speak, we're not conscientious of what are my gifts? How do they come through? And how do I let my gifts work with other people's gifts, as opposed to being like, oh, I'm crazy, I'm something else. I was medicated for many years and I was like, oh my God, I feel numb. I can't hear the thoughts and I can't feel the feelings. And the feeling is part of how it comes through for me. So I had to really move myself out of the forgetting and into the remembering. And I have a 21-day course called Psychic Literacy that literally teaches you what the alphabet of your own psychic gift sounds like, because there is a way to literally, through EFT, that's what we do for 21 days. Through EFT, you can rewire your nervous system to actually trust what the messages are that come through your body for you to be your whole entire self.
That's amazing. Yeah, that's amazing. So what advice, other than the 21-day challenge that you have, which I think is really great, because it's like, for anyone who's like, oh, I think I might be psychic, or to be able to embody that and see, and get some clarity about what kind of psychic they are, or
Mm-hmm.
what I love calling them powers, what powers they
Yep.
have,
Yep.
and so what advice would you give for someone who might be struggling or is still closing off on the fact that they have a gift and is trying to stay, quote unquote, safe?
First of all, the safety that you're creating is false, and it's the thing that's making you physically unwell. It's the thing that's making you mentally unwell, and it's the thing that's causing the most problems in your life. The coping mechanisms that we've created, and I like, just to throw one more thing, I have a little quiz called confused static or clear signal. The things that we do that confuse the static, that create chaos, those things come from a seed of a moment in our lives where we were taught or where we understood where the lack of safety is in being that gift. But now it's just a habit that actually harms you. And so if you're still operating that way, if you want to know how you're operating, you can go ahead and take the quiz. But if if you're still operating that way, notice it without judgment. So without judgment is the biggest part. There are so many unconscious ways that we shut ourselves down, right? We perform like we're all good. We act like everything's all okay. We overdo. We ask everybody in our world, am I good enough? Did I do it? Do I get the approval? Where's my gold star? Right?
Yeah.
There's so many ways that we show up. And
Or like
so,
when you know something and you know the answer, but then you ask 10 different people. And
yep,
I've been guilty of doing that. Or like, oh,
sure.
let me run this scenario for you. You let me know. And then they're like, they say exactly what you already knew. And you're just like, oh, but let me ask one more person. Maybe it's not right.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there are so many different ways that we show up out of integrity with our soul. And if you're doing it, the worst thing you can do is judge yourself about it, because that keeps us in the loop. We unconsciously seek the chaos that we know. So if you grew up in a household that was very loud and overstimulating, even though you probably only want peace, you will seek a reality where loud chaos finds you because it's what you've known, even if you desperately don't want it. And so being able to course correct that, to shift that narrative in your life and in your mind, you have to notice it. I used to say, you need to shine your light under the bed and know the monster that's under there so that you can get the right tools. But if you're freaking out under the covers being like, there's a monster, you're never going to fight it. And if you go and you put your flashlight under there and you're angry that you have a monster, I'm sorry, but it's going to eat you before you have a chance to beat it. So a lot of it is really just in the allowance. And this is where, a practice of meditation is really helpful, because then you can notice your thoughts, not judge them, not change them, not do anything about them. You're not a monk. You don't have to sit in silence in your brain. It's just noticing, yep, there's that thought again. There's that thought again. There it is again. And when you notice it and you're like, I wish it would go away, then you can be like, what is it serving? Why do I ask 10 people still? Well, obviously, because it means that I don't have to just jump to trust myself. It means that I can actually not actually do the thing that needs doing. I can get away with not doing it because by the time I've asked 10 people, the window has closed. Right?
And then I could be like, oh, see, or like, let's say you still do
timing
it.
Didn't work.
Yeah. Or you could be like, oh, it's their fault. They gave me bad advice.
It's your fault for asking for the advice in the first place.
100%. And like when you were saying about like growing up in a chaotic and loud household, that translates like trauma wise into like waiting until the deadline to finish your paper or waiting till last minute, just needing that rush of adrenaline of like, oh my God, this is chaotic. This is, what am I going to do? And then all of a sudden you get it done, but you could have done it a week earlier.
Yes.
Because you have the potential to do it. You have the skills, you have the tools and everything, but it's like you need to take the edge off by like waiting last minute to get it done.
Correct. And those executive functioning defaults or those executive functioning, stop starts are creating for you this pattern. And again, this is why I know that mental health and spirituality go together, because you can become better at your executive functioning. But what we've done kind of as a society is put this big blanket of like traumatized over top of it. And like, trust me, I am plenty traumatized, but I don't relate to my trauma as something that is going to condition me and create me. My trauma is something that has happened, but I'm responsible for how I react to it, how I move through my life about it. So, you can't just be in your, I can't executive function, I can't get this thing done, I'm a procrastinator, so I procrastinate. Like, okay, but you're also responsible for your entire reality. You're also creating your reality every single moment. So every time that you agree to that box of limitation, to that third dimensional density, you're not living in a higher psychic vibrational self.
Yeah. And instead of being like, I'm a procrastinator, why am I procrastinating?
Yes.
What did I do when I was a child that, because I didn't want to get yelled at or told that, this paper sucks, I procrastinated and waited. So that way, when they told me this paper sucks, I could say like, oh, it's because I waited till last minute.
Right. Or did you have a parent who couldn't handle how energetic you were, right? And so if you had quick answers and your parent was like, oh my God, slow down.
Yeah.
Which often is the case.
Loud.
Yep. Then often you learn to silence yourself, to put yourself away into that box. And 100%. So to free yourself out of it takes courage.
Yeah. And you'll even hear it as an adult, because you have it. That's it. You conditioned it in your mind. I'm too loud. I need to lower my voice. So every time you get excited and you're being yourself, and somebody tells you like, oh my God, you're so loud. You're just like, you're that child again of like being reprimanded. And then all of a sudden you just shrink yourself.
Well, I will say that when that comes my way at this phase of my life, I shine. When people tell me like, oh, you're oversharing, or, you're loud, whatever the thing is, now my response is, thank you.
Yeah, me too. Thank you for your feedback.
Oh, not even thank you for your feedback. Just like, thank you. You really see that like I am bigger and louder and influential, and that I am this is my superpower. And just because it makes other people uncomfortable, that's not my problem, And so I really, really, really live like with a big, I don't know if can I cuss?
Go for it.
I live with a lot of fuck around and find out energy. I'm like, you know what? If you really think so, I promise you haven't seen the worst of it. So stick around.
It's so funny because I'm the same way. And I'm just like, oh, that person decided to F around and find out. And then it's like, you brought this side out of me. I was nothing but nice to you. And you decided like, hey, she's nice. Let's try to step on her back to get up.
No. I'm kind. I'm not nice.
Yes. Yeah, I like that word better. Yeah. Being kind. And then all of a sudden when they're like, oh, she's kind, let's try to take advantage. And then all of a sudden you're like, I don't think so. Oh my
God, nice, babe.
I'm not nice.
That's right. I'm happy to be not nice, especially in a world where I know that my energy really is a currency. And so if you come to me and you want to dull my light, which by the way, when you tell me that I'm too much or too loud or oversharing or this and that, you're trying to dim me. And I'm not going to be dimmed. So I can see what your agenda is. I'm not here for it. Yeah. And I'm going to meet it. I'm going to match it with something that's actually going to make me shine even brighter, which is going to be really uncomfortable for you, but great for me.
Yeah. And then it begs the question, why does it make you uncomfortable? Is it because somebody told you you're being too loud and you need to be quiet? So now you need me to be quiet so you can feel like you're doing your job by silencing everybody else because you were told to be silent.
That's right. That's right. And I in quantum human design, I'm an orchestrator. Human design, I'm a projector. So people.
Oh, me too. I knew there was a reason why you and I got along.
Yeah. And projectors get projected on. So I just sort of stand there, just being like, "Oh, that's what you see on this beautiful screen. You are super wrong. Return to sender. Goodbye." And like I just carry on.
I say that all the time. I'm like, I unsubscribe to this.
Yep.
Return to sender. Goodbye. Or I just walk away. Sometimes I don't even say anything. I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna walk away now. When you're ready to come back around with a different attitude and a different tone of voice,
I've moved on
to find me.
You don't know where to find me. I'm already gone. I promise.
Even better.
Yeah. That's how I live.
That's awesome. And then what ripple effect are you hoping to create from all the work that you do and all the people that you've come across and were able to help?
Somebody once called me a permission slip, and it was such a huge compliment because I really just live my life as Just Jana. It's why I named my podcast that. And my hope is that the world can understand you are so much more magnificent than you think you are. And it doesn't matter what you do for a living or where you live in the world or what you believe or where you come from, how much money you've had in your bank account at any point in your life. We are all, in my humble opinion, God's children. We are all here as part of the immaculate stardust experience that we are experiencing in a human body. We all come from the same source. We will all return to that source. And as we live our experiences in incarnation, it is so important for us to just be like, I am just Rainia. I'm just being who I am in this moment. That is good enough because I came here as a child of God to be that. And how that lets me show up in my corporate job or in my family or in whatever realm it is, how that lets me attract what it is I am meant to attract from that wholeness, which is everything that I desire, by the way. It doesn't matter, because whomever is coming into my world with a projection of something I don't care for, that doesn't resonate for me, I send back to them like all the peace that they require to adjust themselves to not need to give that projection, because it comes from their own not enoughness. So yeah. I hope, I pray a lot that humanity steps into their own individual enoughness such that there is no believing in the projections of you need to this and you shouldn't that and you should have this and you should have this much money and this, your life should be like this. Like, my life does not look like anybody else's life. Nobody that I know lives a life that looks like my life. And thank God, because I feel very self-fulfilled. And that doesn't mean that I don't have moments of loneliness and heartbreak and sadness. Of course, I'm a Pisces sun. I feel all the feelings all the time. But really, I believe that that we're moving to a destiny of enoughness, that we're moving to the good part. And I pray that we get there, and that for anybody who doesn't know how to arrive at that destiny or doesn't believe that that destiny is possible, that they find the right guides, the right teachers, the right, modalities, the right tools, the right, whatever the things are to get them to their own enoughness, so that they don't continue the cycles of harm that have been present on our planet for millennia, generations. We're coming out of something huge right now, and it's palpable in all of us. And I pray that we do that with ease and grace and love and patience and kindness, not niceness, kindness. And, and that we do that quickly, because those of us who are holding that frequency, we tired, girl. We real tired.
Oh, believe me,
I
super
do.
tired.
I do believe you.
It's taken a lot. And it's like, going back to earlier, what you're talking about, like cornucopia and stuff. And a lot of people wait to die to go to heaven.
Yes.
They say like heaven or hell, but like, why can't we have heaven on earth? Like all the things that you're
create
seeking.
it. And that takes chutzpah. It takes.
Yes. And it's like, people are waiting to die to experience it. But
I've done it. Don't recommend. I mean, I do recommend it when the time comes, but while you're here, try and stay alive.
Yes. Create your own heaven on earth, and experience it. And it's like, people are waiting for the next thing to happen. But like, what about being in the present moment and experiencing those things that you're seeking, that you don't even know what's going to happen after, you pass on, for most people. So why not create that for you now? Because God put you on this earth to have an experience. God didn't tell you like stay on this earth and go through
taxes and die.
Yeah, pay taxes and die and suffer and have pain and just be like, oh, when I'm dead, I'll rest. No, that's not. No, this is an experience for you to create your own. You get to be the author, the editor of your own story. And, God put you on this earth to create your own story, one that you're 88 years old, you look back on and you're just like, wow, I lived an amazing life. And I passed it on to the next generation, who's going to pass it on to the next 8 generations. And it's just going to keep going. And this ripple effect is just it's nonstop. It's infinite. So what ripple effect do you want to create? Because it's infinite and it just keeps going and going and going.
And, something that I know to be factual is that miracles happen all the time, constantly. If you've ever seen a baby being born, miracles are inevitable. And there are so many that are available to us. And there are signs that they are coming. There are ways to understand. There are even ways to create more miracles in your life. But a lot of it is about bending the reality that you've been told is true and, making space for those those miracles to come through and to guide us forward. And yeah, you know, we're
Stop
destined
asking for permission to be
girl,
yourself.
girl, right? Truly, 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 truly. And yeah, whatever you can do to liberate yourself from the trap of thinking that you're not enough, do those things. And, you know,
Yeah.
whatever anybody else has to say about it is none of your business.
Yeah, 100%. And it starts
Yeah.
with, you know, one way you can start is ask yourself, like when a thought comes up, and you know, whether it's like a thought like I'm not enough, why do I feel like I'm not enough? Where is this coming from? And then literally it'll just start breaking down layers, and you just be like, oh,
Hmm.
that's where it started from. And it really is, it's not something where you have to like sit there and just constantly relive the same trauma over and over again. But at the same time, that trauma is there to be felt, to be experienced for a reason. It has a lesson for you. It
Yes.
just wants to be acknowledged, just like you want to be acknowledged and heard and seen. That experience that you had, that thought that you're having, wants the same
Hmm.
thing. So
Yes.
sit with it,
Yep.
you
Everything is
know?
everything. Everything is everything. We really
Yeah,
need to feel it all. Otherwise it stays in the box. So I'm ready
100%.
for an out of the box thinking
Oh,
reality.
yes, please. I want to float in the clouds.
Meet you there, babe.
Thank you so much for coming
Thank
on. This
you.
has
This has been
been
so
a pleasure.
fun. Yeah,
Yes, thank you
thank
so
you.
much. And thank you for tuning in to another episode of The Rania Show. I hope you guys have a wonderful week, and I'll see you next time. Bye. Don't
Bye.
hang up. You know how many people hang up when
I
when I
do.
say bye? Yes.
Girl.
I'm like, I have to be like, don't hang up as soon as I say bye, because people literally just like
My
won't
hands
hang
are
up.
my hands are on my